The model railroad rises from scratch until we have a dream model railroad system. And we're slowly getting to the things that are extremely fun. And since we have removed our painter's tape from the tracks, we can see them again. Now we will be busy with beautifying the tracks. I am holding a regular C-track here in my hand. The advantage of this track is that they already have an embankment. There is ballast left and right, so they already looks very realistic. We want to work a little bit on the transition to the landscape left and right. That way, that will look even better. So that's our task for today. We will ballast the C-tracks. I will remove the tape from this area here. During the last episodes, we plastered all over. I started to paint everything. I also applied a primer. I tried harder with a primer than I should have, since we want to add grass flock to it, so grass fibers. So probably I did too much work with the paint here, since you won't see most of it anymore. But the more work you invest and the more realistic it looks before you add the flock medium, the better the overall result will be. Let me take off the tape. We also took off the signals. I did that so they won't break during the work. Here is some plaster residue. We can suck that up with the vacuum cleaner later. I will take off the tape up to this area here. That's where we will start working. All the materials you need to do that on your own can be found in the description text under this video. Here is some more tape on this signal. We will do some dirty work now. I have something prepared here. That's what we will need now. That's a special ballast from the manufacturer Bush. And it fits exactly with the Märklin C-tracks. So it is supposed to have the exact same color as the C-tracks. So what we want to do now is to ballast these areas on the left and right side of the tracks. That way we can create a nice looking and white ballast bed. Also here between the turnouts. And we also want to ballast inside the tunnel as well. That's our plan for the next couple of minutes. You also need ballast glue. You can use it like a pipette. So the ballast will be fixed using a special glue. That one I have right here. This one is from Heki, but you can also buy them from Noch or Bush or other manufacturers. Let me take the tape here off. A magical moment when you take off the tape and the result is looking good. Alright, I removed the last piece of tape. Okay, we continue with this glue. That's a grass glue. I bought the larger container since we will need quite a lot of this glue. I used some of it before I opened it the last time. Now I take a brush and pick up some of this glue. And then I start brushing on this glue to the side of the tracks. You can be generous with it. I will sprinkle my ballast on. And we have the same situation as with the asphalt granules from the last episode. If they don't fall on glue, they will be picked up later when we vacuum this area. If you want to reuse the ballast that you suck up, you can pull a sock over the vacuum cleaner. That way the ballast will be sucked up into the sock. Our first accident. I dropped some glue here. That's not good. If we don't remove that, the signal won't be able to move later. Best to let it mask or we use water to remove that. The glue hasn't set yet, so you can easily remove it. Let me get a wet cloth. And now I remove the glue to make sure our signal doesn't get broken. We don't want to dismount that, so we want that to remain there forever. Alright, let's continue with gluing. I simply move the plaster residue to the side here with the brush. I can apply the glue all along the tracks. The glue takes some time to set. It will dry overnight, so you can take your time. You are not in a hurry. Make sure you cover every corner with glue. Where there is no glue, there will be no ballast. I always orient myself on the tracks and work along them and apply the glue over a large area around it. We also apply glue here. We want to have a nice looking transition to the meadow later. Also, we apply glue at the entrance of the tunnel. I will apply glue on the inside as well. I will use a spoon for that. We want to create a realistic transition and we usually have ballast in the tunnel as well. So I apply glue there as well and then I will add ballast as well. The C-tracks has ballast already, so you don't have to add extra ballast, but it just looks nicer that way when you shape the transition to the meadow in that fashion. You don't need much, just a little bit of ballast. The result is very realistic. There are model builders that use the K-track by Märklin. You have to ballast the K-track, since it doesn't come with a ballast embankment. So it is not absolutely necessary to ballast the C-track, since it already has this realistic ballast embankment. But I really like the extra touch. Now we have to be careful with this signal here again. We don't want to get glue on there. I took this one out on purpose. I explained how you can take the signals off to make sure they don't break by accident in one of the last episodes. Now a little more glue here. We could fill the space in between completely with ballast. But I may as well create a meadow or use sand powder or some kind of rocks. I don't apply glue here in the middle. That's where my platform will be. It is not finished yet and I'm still not sure how long it will be. I am waiting for commentaries from you on YouTube. If you have any suggestions about the system planning, go ahead and tell us. I will apply some more glue on this spot here. Although that's where I wanted to have this ramp. I will glue that on there right now. What's done is done. I can always take it off carefully if I want to change the colors. I don't glue this too close to the tracks so the train can still pass without any problems depending on how wide the wagons are. Okay, that's fixed. And here you can see the bumper. There we have some ballast already. So we will add some more there. That will be a great transition. And that's a good spot for a bush or a tree. We want that to look a bit wild and overgrown. Alright, I have applied glue here and there and also here in the middle. Let me close the container. I don't want that to dry out. If you leave the container unsealed, you have to buy a new one and that would be a pity. Alright, and now to the next step. I always have trouble getting the right dose with these small packages. What I do instead, I reuse one of these bottles when they are empty. And then I fill it with the ballast. I have an empty one over there. Thank you. I cut that one open and I fill the C-track ballast in there. That way I can distribute it much better than if I just pour it on. So just reuse an old bottle and cut off this part on top. It is best to use a funnel. Unfortunately, I don't have one now. I fill it in carefully. Doing this, you could also mix the ballast with other kinds of ballast, if you don't want the ballast to be too identical. Maybe you want to have a brighter ballast mixed in there. You could fill both in this bottle and mix it then. That way, you can create different styles of ballast. Okay, I put this aside, I will need that later. And now we apply this ballast carefully. I'm doing this very lightly all along this track. That's why I didn't use glue here at the side. I don't want to have ballast where my electronics is supposed to be. Very carefully drizzle this over here all along the tracks. As you can see, it is much easier to dose the ballast with the bottle. Well, looking good. We do that on the other side as well. Here also and all along over the tunnel entrance. And you can already see the nice transition we create that way. Much better than just the C-track. Although the C-track itself already has a nice looking embankment. But this is a bit more realistic. I use a little bit more here. I can level that out. Let's ballast that completely. That way we can include the bumper as well. So we have ballast all over. Okay, now in front of the platform. That worked well. And whatever is left over will be vacuumed later. Next is the tunnel entrance. Much harder to dose here since I cannot reach it really well. So I will apply some more ballast and vacuum the residue later. Okay, the same procedure on the other side as well. Shake the bottle and hold it at a slight angle. The ballast will fall in place by itself. The higher you hold the bottle, the wider the ballast bed will be. We don't want it to be that wide. Some more ballast inside the tunnel. You could have done that before you built that tunnel, but that's looking very good. And that's what I will do all over the system. Have one more look. Here I have finished my ballast bed, so that's looking good so far. So you still see some white areas, we still have glue there, so I can apply some more ballast. So the white spots are areas that need ballast. I recommend to generously apply glue all along the tracks, then you can ballast in one go. And that's very realistic by now. That was all the magic now. What we have to do next is to fix all the ballast. For that purpose, I will use the ballast glue. That's this white glue here. Between you and me, that's basically white glue mixed with a detergent. Of course, the brand products are well balanced. I haven't made it to mix a glue by myself that really works like the ones you can buy. So there's a reason why you can buy specific products by specialist shops. I always like to use this glue. It also comes with a pipette, and that's very handy. What we have to do now is to fix the ballast. We let this glue drip into the ballast, drop by drop. The glue disperses in the ballast and interconnects the ballast. And overnight everything will be glued together. If you're holding the bottle too high, you will create craters that almost look like bullet holes, because the ballast bits will be shifted by the impact. If you do that slowly and carefully, like I am right now, the glue will slowly disperse in the ballast. For a second, you will see a white spot and then it disappears. And the glue will set overnight. Be patient. If you are in a hurry, the result won't look good. You don't need a lot of glue, only a few drops. That was almost too much here. If that happens, just shake the bottle again, and then it will drip again. If you get a little bit of the glue on the track, that's no drama. Just make sure it is not too much. If you are too fast, the drops are too big. Then they won't disperse correctly, so be patient. The glue spreads automatically and bonds with the substrate. You have to do that everywhere. You just have to be patient. If you press on the bottle, more glue will drop out, but that's dangerous since it might look ugly afterwards. If it is just a little bit too much, that's no problem. Usually the glue will spread evenly, and you can be sure that the ballast will hold the way you want it to. We will let that dry for one episode until we meet again, and then the ballast will be fixed. I'm sure that this will look great. I need the cloth, I smeared a little bit. I don't want that, that's no problem. It's only bad if that was a turnout. I like what I see. What do you say? Do you like it? I would say we can leave that. We will apply glue here at the side again when we do the grassing. Make sure you apply the ballast beforehand. In real life, you usually have the rocks and grass grow over it, and not the other way around. Okay, now that's the C-Track ballast by Bush. I can recommend that. Other manufacturers also sell ballast for the C-Tracks. Let me check if I have a product from another manufacturer. Here I have one from Noch. They usually contain 250 gram. Just search for C-Track ballast. That fits perfectly to those tracks. For our system, we will need at least 5 packages. We'll see how many we actually need. I will use the ballast all along the tracks before we start with the grassing in the next episode. So far, everything is looking very good. We can start thinking about where we want our grass to be. And we also want to continue to build our road. And for that purpose, I have organized something very nice. Look here, that's stone art by Vollmer. That's a very special textile made of quartz sand. We can place this here as forecourt, for example. That way we will have this very realistic surface. This cobblestone looks great, and that's a nice thick piece of foil. You can cut it into size with a crafting knife, and then we can create this forecourt here with it. I'm imagining this as an industrial area. I can place it now underneath the platform and underneath the train station. And then I can mark in which way I want to cut that. I can do that while my ballast is drying. So that's something to do for the next episodes. And we have to continue with our road. The glue has set, we still have the concrete granules there. We have to vacuum that. After that, we can paint the road using a nice gray paint. And then it will look like a real asphalt road. Now, those are our tasks. Okay, so be careful with the ballast glue. I will continue with that in a moment. Then you can see how that works. It just takes some time, but when you take your time, you will be able to tell the difference between a professional's work and the work of a beginner. Okay, let me take a brush. It just looks better if you ballast those tracks at the side. I used a primer underneath so that you don't just place the ballast on the raw wooden board. I guess it doesn't matter if you prime the board since you cannot see anything now away. So I still like to do that. That way you already see the landscaping arising during the crafting. Otherwise, you are working for weeks on a bare, naked system. And it looks so nice and green now. It might not be necessary, but it looks better. And when we start grassing, believe me, you will be able to tell whether or not we used a primer before. My transitions between the grass and the ballast are much nicer that way. Okay, more glue all over here. I guess this takes up to 2 hours until the ballast is distributed, so that's a good time to do this. And this is a point of no return. After we did this, we are not willing to remove the tracks anymore. I screwed the tracks to the ground in one of our last episodes. I could have used hot glue as well, and the ballast will add additional stability. They are now sitting really firmly on the system. That's a great advantage. I will continue on my own now. Or do you have more time? I guess we will make a cut here and then I will finish this on my own. We will meet again when the ballast is distributed and then we will start to work on the green meadows and the rest of the design. See you then. Take care.